this statement, we will start.
Langsung aja Pak Taufik. Let's start right away.
Hello, IT.
Let's start the seminar now. Do not wait. Ya Pak Suyanto.
Halo, IT.
Halo.
Kak Idam.
Iya Pak.
Pak Taufik mana?
Sedang ada gangguan sebentar Pak.
Ya. Oke. Saya ambil alih aja Pak.
Ya, silakan Pak Gu.
Ya. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the seminar of IPWIJA School of Economics, IPWIJA Jakarta, entitled Revolution 5.0 in Entrepreneurship Education, the application of technology and entrepreneurship. We welcome Pak Hari Miarsono as the Board of Trustees IPWI Foundation, Ibu Sri Lestari Prasilawati as Chairman of IPWI Foundation, and also we welcome Professor Richardus Eko Indrajit, as our keynote speakers today. And then also we welcome Professor Ting Wu from Yunling Science Technology University, Taiwan. And we welcome Mr. Kita Wiryawan from School of Government and Public Policy. And also candidate Dr. Ibu Lucia Mary Silitonga. Thank you for your opportunity to share the knowledge and practices for the participants today. We also welcome co-hosts there. There are many co-hosts now from the Hasan University Bengkulu. Oh yeah. Indraprastha PGRI University, Bayangkara Jakarta University, STIH Caritas West Papua, STI Mahesa Manokwari, STI PGRI Sukabumi, Amikom University Yogyakarta, and Mahasaraswati University Bali. And also this event sponsored by Bank Jabar Banten. Pak Taufik udah lagi belum? Belum ya?
Okay, hello.
Maybe first of all, we will be.
Excuse me.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Pak
Hello,
Taufik,
Mr. Taufik.
please continue with the agenda. Read the agenda for today. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Taufik.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Excuse me. We will start our agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessing. Good morning, everyone, and have a good time. My name is Taufik. It's an honor for me to be the MC of today's international webinar, Thursday, 22nd July 2021. In celebration of the 28th anniversary of STIE Jakarta, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the international webinar entitled Revolution 5.0 in Entrepreneurship Education, the application of technology in entrepreneurship. Hosted by Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Ekonomi IPWIJA Jakarta, Indonesia, in collaboration with National Yunlin University. School of Government of Public Policy, SGPP Indonesia, supported by co-host partner, the Hansen University, Bengkulu, Indra Prasta PGRI University Jakarta, Bayangkara Jakarta Raya University, STIE Maesa Manokwari Papua, STIH Charitas Papua, STIE PGRI Papua, Maha Saraswati University dan Pasar Bali, Amikom University Yogyakarta, and this event sponsored by Bank Jabar Banten. First of all, let's thank God, Allah Almighty, who has been giving us mercy and blessing so we can participate in this event without any obstacle. Praise be to the last messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It's an honor to me to welcome and introduce the guests of this international webinar. The Honorable Chairman of the Board of the Trustees of the IPWIJA Foundation, Hari Miyarsono, PhD. The Honorable Chairman of IPWIJA Foundation, Dr. Sri Lestari Prasilawati. The Honorable Chairman of STIE Jakarta, Dr. Besar Agung Martono. The Honorable Vice Chairman of STIE Jakarta, Associate Prof. Dr. Suyanto. The Honorable Vice Chairman of STIE Jakarta, Dr. Andus Juniarto Prasetyo, MPM EDD. The Honorable Keynote Speaker, Professor Dr. Ricardus Eko Indrajit, and the Honorable Speaker, Professor Ting Ting Wu, Mr. Gita Wudiawan, MBA, MPA, Dr. Anda Lucia Mariani Silitonga, MPD, PhD candidate, the Honorable Moderator, Mr. Agus Sudigdo, PhD, all of represented co-hosts and sponsor, all of the participants that join us through IPWIJA channel YouTube streaming, all of the participants of the international webinar today. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this international webinar. In this webinar, we have several agendas. So allow me to read several sequence, our agenda. The first agenda is opening. The second is national anthem of the Republic of Indonesia. The third is a opening speech from a chairman of IPWIJA. The fourth is welcoming speech from chairman of the Board of Trustees of the IPWIJA Foundation. The fifth is keynote speech and presentation session. The ninth is symbolic giving of international webinar certification. The seventh is photo session. And the last agenda is closing. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, now we start with the first agenda. Let's start this agenda by reciting Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah Almighty, the beneficial, the merciful. Step on to the following agenda with listening to the national anthem of the Republic of Indonesia. Indonesia Raya.
Oke, sebentar Pak.
Mas Idam.
Iya Pak. Indonesia Raya-nya nggak ada ya?
File yang tadi malam Kak Idam.
Pak Taufik, let's move to next agenda. Pak Taufik.
The third agenda, sir.
Ini oke, Pak Idam. Pak Idam mana Indonesia Raya-nya?
Tunggu, sedang loading sebentar Pak.
Oke, Pak Taufik, continue.
Pak Taufik.
We are going to listen to the opening speech that will be delivered by the chairman of STIE IPWIJA Jakarta. We would like to invite Dr. Besar Agung Martono to deliver a speech. Please, time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Taufik. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear Board of Trustees and Chairman IP Foundation, dear Chairman of IPWIJA Foundation, dear keynote speakers, Prof. Eko Indrajit, and the speakers, Professor Tina Wu, Mr. Kita Indrawan, and Mrs. Louis Mary Silitonga, Lucia Silitonga, ya, my old friends from Semarang. First of all, let's thank God for this will that we can join in this international seminar, Revolution 5.0 in Entrepreneurship Education, the application of technology in entrepreneurship. This seminar is conducted to celebrate the 28th anniversary of School of Economics and Business IPWIJA Jakarta, which will be held in 29th of July. And also, this seminar is the follow-up of MOU between School of Economics and Business IPWIJA Jakarta with Yunlin Science Technology University Taiwan. We thank you for Ibu Mary Silitonga to help us in this cooperation and invite Professor Tina Wu. And for the benefit of this MOU, that we also will bring the other universities in Indonesia and hope that the co-hosts that are in this seminar can be also make a MOU with Yunlin Science Technology University Taiwan, because in the future collaboration in the international level is very important, because the future will be borderless world. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now still concerned with the threat of COVID-19 pandemic spread globally. Indonesia also suffered, maybe Taiwan also suffered, which make people suffer and many business and industries collapse. But on the other hand, there are opportunities that some other business can grow, especially businesses that involve technology and IT in their practices. We will soon leave the old days with structured technology, structured system, yeah. But now we face the era of unstructured systems. We call it disruptive era. So disruptive era needs innovations that can create new markets and value networks, and eventually displaces established market leading firms, products, and alliance. So this is opportunity to create new markets, new businesses, compete with other businesses. So the technology will play important role in entrepreneurship education to answer challenges for the future competitiveness, to change weakness become strengths, and to change threats become opportunities. So let's listen to keynote speakers and speakers today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this seminar. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for the opening speech from Dr. Besar Agung Martono. Let's keep on to the next agenda. Welcoming speech from Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the IPWIJA Foundation, Hari Miyarsono, PhD. Please, time is yours.
Pak Soni mana? Pak.
Halo Pak Soni.
Tadi Pak Soni minta di unmute kok nggak bisa, kenapa ya?
Sudah tadi Pak.
Terus gimana? Pak Soni nggak bisa masuk katanya.
Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep on to the next agenda, which is the keynote speech and presentation session from all of the speakers who will be guided by our moderator, Agus Sudikdo, PhD. Allow me to introduce remarkable career and experience of Mr. Agus Sudikdo, PhD, to all of participants. Mr. Agus Sudikdo was born in Jakarta on August 1966. Educational background, bachelor education complete at the University of Indonesia, master degree at STIE, IPWIJA, Jakarta, and doctoral program at Lincoln University College, Malaysia. Mr. Agus Sudikdo has experience as a lecturer in undergraduate and postgraduate program at several universities in Jakarta. Mr. Agus Sudikdo has a lot of experience in local and global companies, such as brand manager at Nestle Indonesia, national sales manager at Unilever, national sales manager Johnson & Johnson, managing director Cipta Rasa Blend Food, GM Mitra Adi Perkasa, a business operational head Live Juice Malaysia. Now it is time for Mr. Agus Sudikdo, PhD, as the moderator of today's international webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our moderator, Mr. Agus Sudikdo, PhD. Please, time is yours.
Thank you, Bapak Taufik, for the introduction. Before I begin, I would like to say thank you to Bapak Dr. Agung Martono, Chairman of STIE IPWIJA, and also Pak Hari Miyarsono, from the Chairman Board of Trustee of IPWIJA Foundation for the opening speech and the webinar. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session where we are going to talk about Revolution 5.0 in entrepreneurship education, the application of technology in entrepreneurship. It is an honor for me to be the moderator of this webinar. My name is Agus Sudikdo, and I'm a lecturer at STIE IPWIJA. We are also much honored today to have Professor Dr. Insinyur Richardus Eko Indrajit, Chairman of PGRI Smart Learning and Character Center, to be with us. So it is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to call upon Professor Richardus Eko Indrajit to deliver the keynote speech. to Professor Richardus Eko Indrajit. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Pak Agus, for the introduction. Very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, on this prestigious webinar. First of all, I would like to greet my fellow friend, Pak Suyanto, Pak Agung Martono, and all of the distinguished speakers who gathered together today to talk about the entrepreneurship education and how the technology can be benefit and can be utilized to promote the entrepreneurship-based education within the Indonesia ecosystem. So allow me to share my screen. Since I'm the practitioner and also the academician of information technology, so I would like to look into this theme from the perspective of how the information technology can be used to promote the entrepreneur-based education system. So it takes several time to broadcast my slide. Just a moment. Okay. So we can since I only have 20 minutes of time, so I would like to share is not really the concept or the theory, but the application of how the information technology can be utilized to make the environment of the entrepreneurship within the university or the campus perimeter. So I designed this presentation from my experience as directors, as the students from the several university, and also after benchmarking in other university, not just in the Asia territory, but also in the other part of the globe. Just a moment, why this is okay. So what I would like to share, give me a moment for sharing this presentation because okay, just okay, good. Now give me one slide. So what is I'm going to say that I have a 10 application or how to utilize technology, especially the information technology within the perimeter of the campus. Okay, why this takes so long? So give me 1 minute, ladies, just a moment. All right. This is what we call as the Murphy's Law. Sometimes when things go wrong, it's really go wrong. Okay, good. Now, what is the entrepreneurship? The first one is, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Good? Okay.
Yes, Professor.
Yes, I see.
So if we use the definition or a simple definition of the entrepreneurship, it really is the act of creating a business or businesses while building and scaling it to generate a profit. So it's really a business, how to generate a business. And an entrepreneur is a person who set up a business with the aim to make a profit. So the question is, what is the role of Indonesian university or other university in creating or producing entrepreneurs? Or specifically, how can information technology facilitate this challenge? So what I would like to share, like I told you before, is the 10 application on how you use technology to create what I call as the entrepreneur atmosphere within the campus. Number one is by using the technology, you can bring the industry to the university, inside the university, by trying to mimic the real world environment into a look-alike environment inside the campus. I give you the example. For example, the management or the business faculty, for example, if they want to learn about the capital market, they would like to learn about how the demand and supply of the stocks, for example, happening in the real world. They can create the simulation of stock exchange by using the technology. Or for example, they want to learn about how the supply chain management work. They can create the environment of supply chain management ecosystem within the campus by using the simulation of technology. So technology can create a simulation, they can create animation, gamification, and other means. If you are a game player, you will know the games like tycoon games, Oil Tycoon, the Transportation Tycoon, or even the Sims games, Sims City, Sims Family, etc. The Sims, for example, in other university in other part of the world, they are using the Sims to simulate the sociology situation in the community. So the undergraduate students can learn psychology and sociology by playing the Sims games. Or the Sim City. The Sim City can be used for those of you who want to learn about the city development studies. Because in the city, in the Sim City, you try to plan, construct, and manage urban situation. So that is the strategy number one, how to use the technology to mimic or to copy what's happening in the real world inside your university. That's the application of the technology. The second application of technology, or I call it the strategy number two, is you are trying to connect your students or your professors or your lecturers to the source of knowledge anytime, anywhere, and anyhow. Because there are so many universities in the world who also promote entrepreneurship education. And with the introduction of the open education concept, like MOOC, for example, the massive open online courses, Indonesian students, Indonesian lecturers and professors can learn from other universities, from other students, from other professors with no cost. If you look into Coursera, EDX, FutureLearn, Open to Study, all of these MOOCs give you the opportunity to enjoy their experience with no cost. And this is provided by very prominent university like MIT, Harvard University, Yale University, Cambridge University, Stanford, etc. all over the world. There's this number two, how you use the technology to connect yourself, to connect your campus to other campus all over the world. Now, the application number three of the technology. By using the features, by using the various application of the technology, you can involve industrial practitioners, management business gurus, startups, stakeholders in the learning process. So your students is not just taught by the lecturers inside the class or the one that assigned to the students, but they can invite the practitioners from the real industry, including the startup players, through many kind of learning process. You can use the groupware, You can use the cybergogy system. You can use the sharing good practices, the colloquium, and other related activities to bring the other party inside your university. Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Meet, You Meet Me, and all those kind of teleconference, Google Meet, they can help you to bring the industrial into the university. Now, the application or the strategy number 4. In today's world, different than the old days, when the university or the campus are really of an ivory tower separating from their environment, right now, through the triple helix between the university and the industry, they have a very tight collaboration. So, the university can help the industry on solving their issues. Every day, the company, the enterprise, the corporation, they are facing so many challenges. And there are some challenges that they cannot solve it by themselves. They have to spend the money to hire a very expensive consultants. If you can introduce yourself to the industry, so every time the industry faces the problems, they have the alternative to make their problem becomes your student assignment. For example, there are corporations that are going to conduct the digital marketing. For example, they want to use the social media to market their product or services, and they don't have experience on that. They give those job or those challenges become the assignment of the digital marketing students within the campus. And that's a very beneficial for them, because if they hire a consultant, they only have one solution or one recommendation. But if you put it in the classroom, and in the classroom you can have 5 or 6 groups to do the assignments, so at the same time, the company will have 5 to 6 solution, a good solution that they can use, and they don't have to pay as much as they pay the 10 best consulting on the world. So this is how the university can help the industry by using the technology. Application number 4. Now the application number 5, the campus and the university, you can develop your laboratories, your labs, where inside consists of the equipment that relate to Industrial Revolution 4.0 technology, like big data, machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality, cloud computing, Internet of Things, and all other kind of the Industrial Revolution 4.0 technology, to help the students, to help the researchers, to help the professors to come out with an innovative product and services. So this is how the technology can be beneficial for the students, because if you are a real entrepreneur, you have to come out with the product and services with value. If you have this value and you propose this value to the market, and the market will buy your product, it means you are starting to become a real entrepreneur, because you create profit. So no entrepreneur without a value proposition. And those value propositions are coming from the product or services. And the university can help them to create the product and the services. Now we go to the strategy number 6, the application number 6. Through the technology, through the application, we can work together with other parties in conducting joint research. In the old days, if you want to have a joint research, many researchers from different countries, they have to sit down together in one place physically. But with the cyber environment, with the internet, with the enhancement of the application or the joint feature of the various application, you can conduct the research together from any part of the world without having to meet physically. So this is the contribution of the technology that you can use, that you can benefit if you want to become the real entrepreneur university. And we go to the strategy number 7. You can involve the students and the university in the authentic real-world entrepreneur journey. So instead of analyzing the startup, instead of analyzing those people who are succeed in doing the entrepreneur works, you participate directly to the journey of those entrepreneurs. There are some business schools in the world where the owner of the business school is like the foundation in Indonesia. They really allocate the money. Yeah, they allocate the money to be given to the faculty of business to conduct the entrepreneur works. Those money can be used to create startup, to put the money into a startup as if you are an angel investor, or you can do anything with the money because you are a faculty of business. So you have to practice what you preach. So the money from the students is given back to the faculty and the students to make more money. So it means you are really becoming an authentic entrepreneur while you are in the campus. We are not talking about the hypothetical cases. We are not talking about the sampling or the case studies, but you are really embarked in the entrepreneur's real-world journey. That is the strategy number 7. And now the strategy number 8. You can make your university, your campus, as the business platform that bring together the demand and the supply of the knowledge and products. There are so many demand of the new knowledge from outside the world that need the answer from the university. There are so many requirements from the industry that can be fulfilled by the campus scholars. But the problem is you don't have the platform to do that. So your campus, your university can become the platform to bring them together in the market lookalike environment. That's strategy number 8. And then the strategy number 9 is you can extend the coverage of your campus or your university by linking them to various professional institutions to build a strategic partnerships. Building your campus, extending your campus, developing your campus without a big investment is a part of the entrepreneur works. So by linking your campus to the rest of the world, meaning that you open the possibility of your students to study, to learn from other domains than just the campus. And number 10, last but not least, you can transform your university, your colleges, your campuses into what I call as the center of entrepreneurship by adopting the open education concept. Meaning that the entrepreneurship education is not just for your students, but also for the society surrounding your campus and for all of the human in the world, on the earth. Why? Because when you embark on the open education concept ecosystem, everybody become your teachers, everybody become your students, everybody become your professors. And by having your inclusive campus, you will have a bigger opportunity to introduce entrepreneurship education within the higher education institutions. So, without the technology, it will take days, it will take years, it will take a lot of money to do this 10 strategy. But by having the appropriate and relevant technology, you can become the entrepreneur university without having to do a lot of effort. My point of view from my experience is not the money who counts. It's not the regulation. It's not even the technology that will make you a success. But it's a matter of changing your mindset. So, thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope those examples of the 10 strategy or the 10 application of how you can utilize technology, especially information technology, to promote an entrepreneurship-based education to your campus will become beneficial for all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Professor Ricardus Eko Indrajit for the very interesting and inspiring keynote speech. Let's give our big applause to Professor Eko Indrajit for the 10 strategy to improve the university in order to have the international and also the entrepreneurship education in the campus. Ladies and gentlemen, please let me continue with the next agenda. Before I continue with the main event, I would like to remind you all about the regulation during the webinar. So let me share you about my share screen. Once again, I would like to remind you all about the regulation during the webinar. Please mute yourself when you are not sharing. And if you have any question during the presentation, please write them into the chat box. And don't forget to mention to whom the question is intended and write your name. Bapak-bapak dan Ibu sekalian yang terhormat, izinkan saya untuk menjelaskan hal ini dalam bahasa Indonesia. Bahwa selama berlangsungnya presentasi dari pembicara webinar, maka peserta webinar yang pertama dimohon untuk menonaktifkan atau mute mikrofon Anda selama presentasi narasumber. Bila Anda memiliki pertanyaan, silakan ajukan pertanyaan dan komentar Anda melalui chat box. Jangan lupa sebutkan kepada siapa pertanyaan ditujukan dan sebutkan nama Anda. Sebaiknya pertanyaannya langsung to the point. Terima kasih. Ladies and gentlemen, now without further ado, let's welcome our presenter. Our first presentation, which entitled The Neuroscience in Entrepreneurship Education, will be delivered by Professor Ting Ting Wu, Director of Graduate School of Technology and Vocation Education, National Yunlin University of Science and Technology, or UNTEC, Taiwan. The second presentation, which is entitled The Application of Digital Game-Based Learning, or the GBL, in Entrepreneurship Education, will be delivered by Dr. Anna Lucia Marianisli Tonga, MPD, PhD candidate at National Yunlin University of Science and Technology, Yuntech, Taiwan. And the last one, our third speaker, Bapak Gita Wiryawan, MBA, MPA. He's going to give the presentation with entitled Artificial Intelligence in Entrepreneurship Education. Pak Gita Wiryawan is very well-known educator and also entrepreneur in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, before we hear the first presentation from Professor Ting Wu, let me read first her curriculum vitae. Let me share first the curriculum vitae from Professor Ting Wu. Professor Ting Wu is an associate professor and director in Graduate School of Technology and Vocational Education, Director of Educational Technology Research Center, Humanity and Applied Science. His research field that she likes to and also already presented in several universities is about mobile and ubiquitous learning, information technology, and applied instruction, and also the intelligence of learning system. Professor Ting Wu is also already received so many awards that I can share it here. And I think most of the award is received from the research field. Without further ado, I would like to call upon Professor Ting Wu to give her presentation. Professor Ting Wu, the stage is yours.
Thank you. It's clear to hear my voice. Yeah, so for now, I want to share my screen for everybody. This is how to share. 下进阶。它不能进阶。等一下，我现在这边不能进阶啊。对啊，等一下，我这边只能分享这个，它不能进阶，只抓一个项目。Why？ 那我就只能分享这个。
所以你就只能分享这个。
对，你们有看到吗？
目前是整个简报还没有。
这样有吗？
有。
整个了。
但是没有整个。
有吗？可是他都吃到我这边的画面了。
对啊，它是底下那个。
对。所以也是同一片。嗯？不行哎。所以不行。
嗯。现在可能好像只是要你底边那个。
嗯。你的分享画面被暂停。Why?
Professor, I can see your PPT just now. Can you just please share your PowerPoint?
Really? Okay, no. 要不然就只能这样子啊。
嗯。
Yes.
因为它没有打开啊。
嗯，
Yes.
我没办法。
Now we can see your presentation, Professor Ting Wu.
他要讲话吗？我听不到。他想要讲话吗？你现在有看到我画面吗？
我现在看到了。
Professor, we can see your screen already.
Yeah, you can see, but I cannot play it. So I only can show this screen for everyone, so sorry. So it's okay to show the sliders?
Yes, already. No problem in here.
Okay.
You just screen view.
Okay, so thank you for everyone to join this seminar, and it's my pleasure can join these seminars because I only have 15 minutes, so I want to quickly to share my research. First of all, I very thank you for Lucia because this research, Lucia helped me to finish it. And even though we suffer COVID-19, but Lucia very brave to go back to Indonesia and help us to do these experience activities. So I very thank you for Lucia. So today I will introduce about using brainwave as Eeg Technology into entrepreneurship course. And I'm Tintin Wu. So I think for the next slider, I think the chair already introduced me a little bit. Even though you look me very younger, but actually I already a mommy. So I have a lot of experience about do the experience activity, especially in education fields. So about the online, today I will introduce these 7 parts. So about the first one, I will introduce the 4 topics let everybody have a little bit understand what is entrepreneurship skill, and entrepreneurship education and neuroscience. So about entrepreneurship has been regarded as a new science in the promotion of economy development, which has led to regular development in entrepreneurship education. Entrepreneurship education considered as one of the most influential forces that determine the health of the competitive economy of many countries. Fostering entrepreneurial spirit support the certainty of new fields and business grounds. However, entrepreneurial skill also provide benefit regardless of whether a person sees their future when starting a business. About entrepreneurship education, the important premise that can be learned from entrepreneurship education is that entrepreneurship can be learned and students can be taught how to formulate an understanding of entrepreneurial mentals, skills, and the competitions. Sometimes they can unlimited facilitate knowledge about how to start a business, start up, and new innovative. About neuroscience, neuroscience research is a welcome and overdue addition to the field of entrepreneurship, and it was believed that neuroscience will be particularly useful in exploring how patients affect entrepreneurial decision-making. So about another introduction, I will introduce a little bit about EEG. Technologies such as EEG are allowed us to capture what is happening inside the individual brain while they carry out activities. The attention level can be monitored via EEG centers. In the previous study, the study of attention often researches by surveys or interview, but now it can be measured by EEG brainwave, and that attention level can be read in the process of individual activity. So in this study, we apply the course format of entrepreneurship that include entrepreneurial skills such as risk-taking, creativity, decision-making, and business plan developed that become the focus of learning. About the purpose and our research questions, this end of research, we were to find out whether EEG result has a correlation with the students' entrepreneurial skills and to know the students' perception of and attitude toward their learning experience in using EEG. So we proposed 2 research questions. One is how did the level of attention correlation with students' entrepreneurial skill? The second is what will the students' perception of and attitudes toward their learning experience in using EEG? So here I briefly introduce the literature review. So the first one, I will introduce entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurship skills, so you can find some relation about this part. Entrepreneurship education equips students with the addiction knowledge, attitude, and abilities needed to apply these skills in the context of setting up a new virtual or business. Entrepreneurship education enables increased social awareness of students, make them sensitive to products in their environment, give them an opportunity to explore the right things, help them to create innovation solutions to problem, and supports their ability to give opportunity about solution met. Entrepreneurship education has a role in teaching students how to develop a business plan, educational program, and train procedures that aim to formulate entrepreneurial skills and attitudes are covered in entrepreneurship education. So this part, I will introduce the entrepreneurship and neuroscience. So the research have suggested that neuroscience may improve to understanding of entrepreneurship. Also, other research also suggests entrepreneurship scholars to consider and incorporate neuroscientific method and techniques in entrepreneurship studies. Neuroscience can help refine the entrepreneurship theories of creativity. Creativity is a production of novel and useful ideas. Creative thinking is very important in the perceptions of entrepreneurial reality. A similar pattern of function connective can also be associated with an increased likelihood of recognized entrepreneurial opportunities. In here, I will introduce the EEG. EEG is one of the tools of neuroscience purpose by Martin and Holland into the study of entrepreneurship. The techniques and tools of neuroscience have provided a better understanding of the topology and the functionality of the brain and are providing an earlier understanding of how it works during the process of entrepreneurship. One of the advantages of using EEG is that it is cheaper and more practical. When compared to using other techniques, portable EEG devices designed for research in mind are quite affordable for institutions because their consumes and maintenance costs are cheap. Data records cost can be down with standard computer equipped as well as analysis. The real adventure of EEGs for entrepreneurial research is accumulated experience of nearly a century in medical and psychology, which has resulted in well-established research design method and tools for analysis and interpretation of data that can be extensive, valuable, and documented in the cognitive science futures. So about our methodologies, about the participants, there are 20 students from a university in Indonesia who were taking entrepreneurship course. A design, in this research, you only have one group in our experiment, and they also need to ask for pre-test and post-test. The experiment was during 3 weeks of 9 meetings. Every student will equipped with computer and EEG brainwave in classroom experience. It means when they listen to the teacher have a course, every student need to wear our EEG. So about our experiment procedure, so you can see the detail about what activities the student have. So the first meeting, we will try to introduce the topic of the course, let the student understand what we will do. And the student need to sign the brain experiment concept form because we need to detect their attention. So after that, the student will ask to have the pretest. The pretest includes 3 dimensions. One is risk-taking, another is creativity, the third one is decision-making. So in second minute, we start our experiment activities. So you can see the detail about learning material the student will take. So each meeting consists of 20 minutes teacher presentation, and student will use Eeg Tools to measure their attention. The last 20 minutes, the group need to discussion. So after the teacher's presentation and after the 5 meetings, the student need to do the business plan presentation. The student will present their business plan and are assessed by teacher. So the teacher will, according to the presentation content and other things, to give the score to the students. In 18 meetings, the student need to do the post-test. The same, the post-test have include risk-taking, creativity, and decision-making. We also add another questionnaire. It's about student engagement and satisfaction. So the last meeting, we hope to more understand the student, what they think in their mind. So we have the interview. So we randomly pick up the 6 participants in our experiment activities. So in this picture, you can see the teacher gave the speech here and the student will the EEG, and they can see their attention level in their computers. I think it's very tough work for the student, especially each computer need to detect one student's brainwave. So I very thank you, Lucia, to solve this problem and do the excellent experiment activity for me. And this teacher still handsome. So you can see the student very focused on what the teacher said. Okay, for these sliders, I will introduce the assessment tool so the participant can understand how can we gather some information from our tools. The first is Eeg Tools. Eeg Tools, which is developed by NeuroSky, provides an accurate reading of attention. Combined with the computer program, the signal from capable Eeg headsets was translated into attention views. The attention level of the student during the classes activities was monitored via EEG sensors on the computer screen in front of each student. The student can see their attention level while listening to the teachers. The second is Entrepreneurship Skill Rubric. Assessment rubric contains the score of risk-taking, creativity, and decision-making was designed by researchers. The score will assessed from the student's oral presentation. So you can see the assessment sheet here. So the third is pre-test or post-test. We research a lot of literatures and we find some questionnaire can fit our pre-test and post-test. So you can see we have risk-taking, creativity, and decision-making. And all the tests is modified from those researchers. The fourth is engagement questionnaires. So you can see we use 2 questionnaires is about engagement and satisfaction. The last one is the interview. 5 items of interview question will modify from this research. So about our result. The first, we want to answer the research question. The first research question is correlation of EEG means view and entrepreneurship skill performance. So you can see the first table about descriptive analysis of attention level. We can know that the participants' level of attention of 20 students for 5 minutes influenced between 34.1 and 69.2. Based on the attention view, the baseline of attention is 15.1.2, which means that the attention can be classified into 2 types. One is high-level attention. Another is low-level attention. So about this table, show the mean view of attention has a significant correlation with the creativity score and show no significant correlation with risk-taking and decision-making. Furthermore, the score of risk-taking show a significant correlation with the score of creativity and the score of decision-making. And the score of creativity and the score of decision-making show the significant collaboration. So you can find some relation between each dimension. So about the research questions, we want to know the influence of learning activities to perceive entrepreneurship skills. So for this table, you can see the result which show that there is an influence of learning activities with using EEG brainwave to participate risk-taking and decision-making. So about this table identified a tight data distribution for the learning engagement and the learning satisfaction. So this table shows that there is a significant correlation between engagement and satisfaction. So about the last table, you can see the result of linear regression show that learning satisfaction has a significant influence on learning engagement. It means if the student more satisfaction about this course, they will focus on this course. So about the interview, we try to gather some students' perception of EEG experience. The research conduct individual interview with 6 participants choosing from the 20 students. The quantitative analysis support the quantitative finding, providing additional insight into the student's learning approach. The student will simulated to become more focused in learning due to the EEG using because they can know their attention level on their computer. So when their attention level decrease, they will more focus on what the teacher speak. So about the discussion, the first one, the experiment results show a significant correlation between the attention level and creativity skills of the students. Results also show that there is an influence of the learning activities using EEG brainwave to participate risk-taking and decision-making. This study also yield a positive result on the student satisfaction and performance. Qualitative analysis demonstrated that view feedback that was shown on EEG monitor significant increase student attention in the learning experience and stimulated to become more focused on learning due to the EEG using. So about the conclusion, using EEG in entrepreneurship course made entrepreneurship learning more engaged and fun, as well as increase motivation and satisfaction. The particular implication of the study. First one, applying EEG tool in an entrepreneurship class is effective to improve the student's focus on the learning materials. The second is using technology such as EEG improve the student's satisfaction and intent to enhance their entrepreneurial skills. So about the suggestion in this research, future research might focus on learning activities with a different characteristic of the sample size and determine the effectiveness of using EEG increase learning achievement by doing the precise exam compared to groups. Because in this study, we only have one group. So maybe in the future, the COVID-19 have solved, maybe we can have 2 groups, one experiment and another is control group. and we can do the further analyze to understand EEG is useful or not. So thank you for your listening. It's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ting Ting Wu, for the very interesting presentation. There is so much knowledge we can learn from your explanation. We know now that if we use knowledge of neuroscience, it can give bigger contribution to entrepreneurship, where the use of EEG tools will increase student risk-taking, decision-making, and more creative in order to be a successful entrepreneur. And now please give our applause to Professor Ting Ting Wu. Let's now move to the second presentation from Ibu Dr. Lucia Mariani Silitonga, MPD, a PhD candidate at National Yunlin University of Science and Technology, UTech, Taiwan. Before she delivers her presentation, let me read her curriculum vitae. Let me share first. Ibu Lucia Mariani Silitonga, actually she's an Indonesian. She was before in, she lived in Semarang, in Banyumanik, and she has also several work experience from lecturer up to the military instructor. Her education background is from University of Diponegoro with majoring in English department, and also her Master of Science, she got it from Semarang State University, also in the same department, before she continued now in the UNTech University. She also received many awards, grant, and have several experience in the research working. She received Fulbright grant in 2011, Fulbright International Conference also, and she attended several center, and also from the St. Louis, USA. She received also Dicty grant in 2013. About her experience in research, she's very hands-on in the cultural adjustment of Indonesian international student research in Taiwan, and also the interactive learning system modeling using MOVE to improve student English competence in 2013. She also had attended several presentation experience from Asian up to the international conference, for example, the African TESO International Conference, and etc. Now, let's call upon Ibu Dr. Lucia Mariani to give her presentation. To Ibu Lucia, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, the moderator, Mas Agus Sudegdo. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
It's a great pleasure for me to be invited to share my idea in this international webinar, which is held by STIE IPWIJA, my old friends. Now I am a full-time student in technology vocational education, National Yunlin University of Science and Technology. Professor Ting Ting Wu is my advisor. She is very young and sophisticated. Thank you for your support. And I am the oldest student, I think. And Professor is the youngest professor in UNTech. She is very sophisticated since she can produce every year more than 5 SSCI Web of Science paper. That is amazing. And this time I'd like to share my idea as researcher from the education point of view. So for the moment, I'd like to share my PPT. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, Bu.
Moment, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see now?
Yes, I see.
Oh, right. So,
Process. Okay.
Yes, we can see now. Ibu
Okay,
Lucia.
clear.
Yes.
Okay. My topic is the use of digital game-based learning in entrepreneurship education. Thank you for Professor Indrajit. He presented the 10 strategy that really support my topic. But before I share my own experiment, actually, this is my second experiment. My first experiment with Professor is neuroscience and entrepreneurship education. I think I have applied strategy number 6 of Professor Indrajit, that's joint research collaboration. So these two experiments actually as the result of joint experiment with one university in Indonesia. Thank you to those university. I think the chair also joined this seminar, but this is still in process, so I make it anonymous. Before I share my experiment or my research, I'd like to tell you or inform you the background why I choose entrepreneurship education. While actually my background is English language, but English language in business. You can see here there are two issues that become my concern to choose the topic of entrepreneurship education. The first issue is about Indonesia, of course. According to Global Talent Competitiveness Index survey, which focus on global competitiveness, especially during COVID-19 pandemic, there has been decrease in work productivity in various economic sectors. The second issue, according to the Central Statistic Agency Indonesia, Indonesia open unemployment rate during pandemic COVID-19 reaches 7.07%, the highest after 2020. This is linked to the entrepreneurs education. Later, I explain more. And then we can see here the rank of GTCI 2019 that they place Indonesia, in the 67 in the world and rank 11 in the Southeast Asia and Oceania. And you can see here number 6 in ASEAN. In Indonesia, we know that entrepreneurship education has been developed in almost all universities with a very varied process to create entrepreneurship. As I told you before, entrepreneurship has a vital role in the progress of nation, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. This figure show that 7.7% is from the total workforce in Indonesia is 138.2 million people, according to Bureau Statistik Indonesia 2020. And I found the link of Bureau Statistik that the figure 7.07 from total workforce, the 7.35% of the unemployment rate is university graduates and 8.8% is college graduates. In this case, it means that the increasing number of unemployed was dominated by educated unemployment. This is the fact that we have to face as teachers in Indonesia. And this is the background. Allow me to underline some issues regarding the importance of entrepreneurship education. The later I will mention EE to make it shorter. Facing the issue of unemployment, higher education is placed as the front line in minimizing the number of unemployed. Many research on entrepreneurship is essential in achieving Indonesian people idea to overcome unemployment with emerging new jobs and changing students. I underline here the honorable participants, thinking from job seekers into job creators. So this is our responsibility as the teacher of university. We have to push our students and change their mind to think from job seeker to job creation. Teacher also being challenged to design effective teaching strategies and plan meaningful activities for the students. University for the Entrepreneurship Education and Training Program, which aim to improve student intention to pursue an entrepreneurial career by improving self-efficacy, attitude, motivation, and other skills. This soft skill will force and strengthen the entrepreneurial skill that already mentioned by Professor Tina, like creativity, risk-taking, or decision-making. And promoting efficient, effective EE framework is considered a very challenging domain, and some innovative educational methods like game-based learning, gamification, virtual reality can enhance and sustain EE. Professor Indrajit underlined in strategy number 1, I make a note here, technology can create real-world environment through simulation, animation, gamification, and other means. So before I conduct my research, I need to know what is the trend, because as student I also would like to publish my paper. So the opportunity of publishing the paper in international journal, we have to see the opportunity. So Bapak Ibu dosen, let's see the trend. You can follow my step as researcher. The trends in digital game-based learning in mobile era. A systemic review journal publication, I only found from 2007-2016. This is conducted by Professor in Graduate Institute of Digital Learning, National Taiwan University of Science Technology, a very well-known university in Taiwan. The author explore from Web of Science database. Web of Science consists of SSCI paper, SCI, EI. I'm sorry, Scopus is not included in Scopus, or Scopus is not included in Web of Science database. Further, I will let you know Google Scholar. By putting the keynote of mobile, ubiquitous, pervasive, gaming, and so on, it is found 204 paper from 2007 to 2016 about game-based learning. And then the author exclude criteria and paper that are not related to mobile-based, eliminate 90 papers. So it is found only 113 papers in the world is talking about game-based learning from 2007 to 2016. And we can see here the number of papers implementing mobile learning game-based from 2000 to 2007 and 2016, dominated by 3: simulation game, role-playing games, and tutorial games. So we can see they are very dominant. So it is an opportunity also. And the number of papers on game-based learning by mobile device, mostly using smartphones. This is mobile. So smartphones, every student has smartphones. It's easy to conduct this research. And portable, you can do wherever, anytime. I forget this is strategic number from Professor Indrajit. And then the subject in which mobile technology supported game is very limited. We can see here, mathematics, business, and management. They are very seldom mentioned. So in this case, Bapak Ibu dosen, researcher, this is worth exploring in the future. This is open. Game-based learning mostly for this topic: engineering, computer science, health, medical, social science, art, design. Language, see artisan, language, business management, 0. So this is good opportunity for teachers of entrepreneurship. And the percentage of this research use mostly experimental design, dominated by experimental design. We conduct our research with experimental design with university in Indonesia. So this is a very good opportunity. And mostly experimental design method is a very prospective candidate for submitting or might be published in international journal. And this is I made my own exploration on Google Scholar, Trends in Digital Game-Based Learning on Entrepreneurship Education, survey journal publication from 2015 to 2021. Google Scholar database means Web of Science, scopes, everything is there. And I put the inclusion criteria, entrepreneurship education, learning, digital games. I found 170 only, 170 papers. And I include again, put simulation game, only 63. When I delete and remove papers that are not related to digital game-based learning and entrepreneurship education on the Google Scholar, I eliminated 23. So finally, I found number of papers with related with the themes, only 40 from 2015 to 2021. I'll show you more about the year. This is the data, honorable participants. In 2021, until this month, July, there are only 5 papers is discussing about game-based learning and associates game with entrepreneurship education. This is in the world, Google Scholar. So you can also check the way I did. So ladies and gentlemen, from this background, I'd like to introduce my research on entrepreneurship education. This is my second joint collaboration with one university in Indonesia. The topic is investigating the influence of entrepreneurship education using business simulation game and flip learning towards students' learning engagement, learning achievement, and high order thinking skill. Why high order thinking skill? High order thinking skill is the skill that strongly related to entrepreneurial skill like creativity, risk-taking, and decision-making. So this is also joint research collaboration in Indonesia, Taiwan. This is the second year. And even though during pandemic, it's not easy for me to go back to Indonesia, but last year for the fall semester, 2020, I forced myself to go back to Indonesia and then conduct this research. Thank you to Professor and also the Dean of the faculty of this university in Indonesia supporting. The outline is numeral, introduction, proposed research question, literature review, method, result, discussion, and conclusion. I'm going to start with the introduction on the entrepreneurship education. I follow Mr. Nadiem Karim about the freedom to learn, freedom campus. I think Belajar Merdeka, Merdeka Campus. I check on the website of the ministry has instructed all university college in Indonesia to introduce entrepreneurship in the curriculum and suggested to prepare students to create their own business. EE explore entrepreneurial mentality, skills, and competency, something that can result in the formulation of new startup and business. And EE also consider incorporating new education technology to increase their efficiency, attractiveness, most importantly, the learning outcomes such as learning methods that use simulation game. Professor Wu Tingting already introduced the innovation of technology, neuroscience, and EEG device is a tool not directly influence or improve the entrepreneur skill, but improve the creativity. And the creativity is the basic skill of Game-based learning is the big few actual games in the classroom to enhance teaching and learning activity. Gamification. Gamification is using like icon emoticon of the game, the element design into a non-game context. Serious game, designed for specific purpose so as to achieve something. And then I'm doing or conducted this simulation. Similar to serious games, simulates real world things, always used for training. This is a very good games that is conducted in entrepreneurship education. Business simulation game, later I call BSG to make it shorter, can provide more authentic and practical opportunities for exploring realistic work environment and engaging in the decision-making necessary. This is Professor Indrajit, strategy number 7, authentic real-world entrepreneurship journey. BSG manipulate learning content and monitors manipulation result to help students better understand real-world experience and practice. And currently one of the most popular approach. Many researchers have described the benefit of using business simulation game for the manipulation of learning content and the monitoring of result of manipulation to help students understand real-world experience and practice. Those researchers claim that being active in a game and having fun are the most critical factors in BSG. And it's good for professional development with construction professionals. And this is the purpose and research questions that I propose from this research to analyze influence of business simulation game into flipped classroom to student learning engagement, learning achievement, and high order thinking skill. Perception toward their learning engagement in the flipped classroom, combining with business simulation game. I propose 4 research questions. The first 3 questions will be analyzed quantitatively, and then research question number 4 will be analyzed, was analyzed qualitatively. And this is also the literature review, a letter about engagement. Engagement is defined as the extent to which students contribute the activities. So to engage, in bahasa is nyambung. The more engaged the student, the more focused to the course. So it's important when we try to teach entrepreneurship skill to the student, we have to invite them to engage to the learning environment that is built by the teacher. So teachers-centered learning now is not popular. Business simulation game promotes student learner center. And simulation games, business simulation game here create opportunities for students to work on high order thinking skill required for business success. And a little about flipped classroom or flipped learning. I introduced that flipped learning describes the evolving method or approach, emphasizing student preparation before class. So in a similar, simple word, flipped learning is invited class. So as a teacher, we give them material before entering the class. So when the students enter the class, they are ready to discuss with the teacher. So this is very important for the teachers. And I think the responsibility of the teacher becomes simpler. They don't need to speak in front of the classroom. They ask the student to discuss because they already know the material in class before by giving them films, movie or PPT, everything before the class. Means students are ready to join the activity in the classroom. So engagement in the classroom is a key element of learning activity. Engagement is explicitly associated with achievement and a vigorous predictor of learning grade, achievement test score, retention, and graduation. So when the student perform well, achieve well, it's because they engage to the learning environment. I think all of you know about this because I check most of you are teachers or lecturers in your university. And refreshing for taxonomy bloom. All teachers knows taxonomy bloom, cognitive domain 2001. But in this research, I would like to show or use the high order thinking skill, the newest one, 2017 by Wang et al. He is professor in National Taiwan University of Science Technology. He promotes that high order thinking skill consists of problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. But in this slide, I show you the rationale of the problem solving, critical thinking, creativity to Bloom taxonomy. I put the line here, creativity refers to creating in the taxonomy Bloom. And critical thinking is about evaluating in taxonomy Bloom, and problem solving refers to analyzing. So, ladies and gentlemen, honorable participants, if we are talking about this pyramid, we promote this low order thinking skill before class. Remembering, understanding, applying, we give them before the class. Before the students enter the class, we give them remembering, understanding, and applying a little through the PPT slide, the movie or film that we give before the class. And in the classroom, we can focus on the skill of analyzing, evaluating, creating. This is high order thinking. And the research design, the method of this research, 9 meeting of 3 credit course entrepreneurship. This is related to the simulation game that I would like to show you after this. I review our experiment before that Professor Ting Ting mentioned. In the first experiment, we just use one group experiment only. Now we use a quasi-experimental design, means we use control group and experiment group. So from the experience, we want to see the difference between our treatment in the experiment group and the traditional class that we normally use in a classroom. And mixed method, quantitative and qualitative. The participants are students from public university in Indonesia. Thank you once again. It's from Department of Agribusiness of International Business that joined the entrepreneurship course. 24 students for control group, 24 student experimental group. It's not easy because the pandemic is very strong last year. So we have to conduct the practice during the class. I will show you in the picture later. This is our research design, the independent variable. This is very important to be clear here. Our independent variable is flipped classroom for trade control group and flipped classroom and business simulation for experiment group. So we are going to test the comparison test, uji beda, to know the impact of the treatment to the students. And the dependent variable is engagement, learning achievement, and high order thinking skill. Very important to show the experiment procedure. This is 9 meeting, 6 meeting. From second meeting to 6th meeting is conducted using simulation game. Before that, before class, video assignment, and in class activity, this is the topic, and the post-test. The questionnaire, the pre-test and post-test are engagement and high order thinking skill. And the post-test is the student achievement, high order thinking, and engagement. I introduced a little about flipped learning classroom. So there is before, in class, and after. I already mentioned before. Before, video assignment, and then in a classroom, only discussion, no traditional teaching. Even in the control group, we use discussion, but we don't use simulation game. The same collaborative classroom, we divide into groups. And finally, they have to complete the business performance at the end of the session. And this is our instrument tools, learning engagement, learning achievement, our reference here. Important thing in this research, we analyzed the interview using software application of qualitative that is, the name is MaxQDA20, so it's very easy. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce the business simulation game that we use. Professor Indrajit already mentioned Simbound, SimCity. Those are very popular simulation game. We use the newest simulation games, marketplace simulation. We aim for students to experiment with entrepreneurship strategy in an engaging game-like exercise. The core learning content here, entrepreneurship, marketing, sales, manufacture, accounting, finance, human resources, and business negotiation. So all these items are integrated in the marketplace simulation. And of course, this is not free, but for campus expense, I think campus can afford the price of this simulation game in order to get a very innovative technology. The creator is Anna Scadot and developed by University of Tennessee, published by Harvard publisher. So this is very popular, and there we order 24 participants divided into group of 6. So there are 4 groups. Actually, when they offer the price, it's 1 user, 1 student. But we negotiate with the EI team of the university, negotiate the price. They give us $180 per group. So it's a lot lower than the public price that they publish on the online. And the facility is teaching materials, videos, rubric assessment. The game consists of 6 rounds, 60 to 75 minutes. This is how to log in. So we give, after we bought the game, we give the login password username to the students. So they can log in by doing these steps, and students set up. The 24 students can do the game in a classroom and outside the classroom using laptop, using smartphone, everything. And the core learning contents are entrepreneurship, marketing, sales, manufacturing, accounting, human resources, and business negotiation. Let me show you the activity in the classroom in the campus in Indonesia. The learning situation of the experiment. The experiment was done during the pandemic, and it was, very high at the moment. I remember October 2020. So the student should use face shield, change masker every time, and then hand sanitizer and so on. So you can see this is the activity. Student can use laptop and also mobile phone. Thank you for my professor and also this university to support the room, everything. The basic thing of joint collaboration is 2 universities should maximize their effort to make sure the experiment run well. This is very important. And this is a very long simulation game, 6 rounds. So I just can show you the teacher interface of business simulation game. This is what we can see on the screen. There are 2, teacher interface and student interface. So while students playing the games and run their company, teachers can oversee and check what the student do through the screen with the teacher interface. It's different. The students cannot explore or cannot check the teacher interface. And this is student interface. The students run the real business. I have explained before that simulation game is real world environment without risk. No money invest. They just use virtual money. The EI game, the EI team of the simulation game give them money to run the business. about $15,000 to start their business. So they start their business, the real business, create the product, marketing, share, everything online. No raised money, money raised. No money invest, but they practice in a real situation. So they produce, the game product is bicycle this time. Why bicycle? During pandemic, bicycle is a very popular product. Many people buy bicycle during pandemic. They go back to the natural activity, not using car, motorcycle. So bicycle is very popular. And this is student interface. There are so many. They work on the balancing scorecard, cumulative, market share, net scale, everything about business they explore and create. And this is the data analysis, as mentioned before, quantitative and qualitative. Let me continue because my time is very limited. This is the result. Refer to the research questions. We have to do the validity and reliability test. We can see here all three dimensions of student engagement. The dimensions are behavioral, emotional, cognitive, and high order thinking. You can see they are valid and reliable. This is for research questions 1 to 3, the influence of business simulation game to student engagement, to learning achievement and high order thinking. The high order thinking is problem solving, creativity. We can see here from the mean improve. This is the control group and experimental group. All of them in the result indicates that playing this business simulation game resulted in improvement greater than the control group. The experimental group show the greater influence or impact than control group. We use descriptive and then ANCOVA. And then for high order thinking skill and learning achievement, the result indicates that playing the business simulation game resulted in improvement in high order thinking skill. And the experimental group greater than those of control group. Let me continue to the research question 4. What I have mentioned before, we are using MaxQDA20. This is very sophisticated. We just code, make a coding of the result of interview and use the framework of interview questions adopted and adjusted from framework for the rational analysis of mobile education. And this is the result. We divide into 3 dimensions: simulation game, learner, and social dimension. For ease of use, most interviewees stated that the game interface provided complete feature of business function. This market-based simulation game is very sophisticated, complete, and represent all departments of the company. And for usefulness is very high, 40%. Allowed flexibility in searching for profile of business departments, taking photos, checking and analyzing competitor performance. So student, while playing the games and running the company in the simulation game, they can explore everything, the market share in the world, the net share, and also they're competitive. So they can see they're competitive by sell more bicycle. So they push themselves to sell more bicycle because they can see the sales and the marketing strategy of their competitors on a game. And interest, the interviews opinion that the feedback provided by the game given as various game mechanism was useful in increasing their interest and motivation in learning. This is very good because the EI team of the game that is designed by University of Tennessee, they give them gamification, like emoticons of satisfied and everything if they achieve very good in the company. If their performance is was reaching the highest performance. And this is for learner dimension and social dimension. Higher order thinking skill, position the highest, and interaction learning, prior knowledge, and for social dimension, learning effectiveness, knowledge sharing, and simulation game environment. I underline here high order thinking skill is problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. This is very high here because during the game in the experimental group, the students are doing activity of analyzing, evaluating, and creating product, creating something new about the company. I show you some pictures of the result. There are so many, just the sample of activity. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see here the students in their company design the bike type and features. This is online. Design the bike advertisement, marketing campaign of the bike. In this case, it produced there creating skill. Creating refers to design and innovation. So this skill is very improved during the simulation game. And students make decision of production strategy by evaluating. Evaluating is critical thinking. Students analyze the data of profits, sales, and financial by evaluating the company performance. I'm sorry, I really want to show you many pictures, but the time is very limited. So I continue to the discussion. That this is the answer of our research questions. That business simulation game had positive impact on student engagement. The impact of BSK was most significant on cognitive engagement. It's creativity, followed by behavioral engagement and emotional engagement. Cognitive engagement refers to the degree of investment in learning, such as understanding what is being taught, while behavioral engagement involves participation, attendance, the expenditure of effort, and persistence, while emotional engagement refers to affective reaction in the classroom, including interest, boredom, happiness, sadness, and anxiety. And business simulation game in this experiment successfully promoted student high order thinking skill, creative thinking, critical thinking, and problem solving. Improved learning engagement. This is very surprising. When the student perform their business plan, there are 2 groups who presented in English. This is more than our expectation. We asked them to speak Indonesia, but they would like to present in English. So this is very amazing result for our experiment. And BSK improved learning achievement engagement is associated with achievement and is a robust predictor of learning grade and achievement test score. And from the interview that I have mentioned before, the student mentioned that they benefit from the teaching learning approach, which motivated them to learn more actively. The activities in the simulation enable them to explore and maximize their skills. And this innovative technology is a key tool in the future development of education and is an essential feature required in the learning process and the development of student skill. And finally, the conclusion and the limitation. The findings provide significant support for BSKs and a strategy to increase undergraduate business student engagement, achievement, and high order thinking skill. And the analysis of student interviews indicated that the use of BSK also enhance other key competencies, such as those related to teamwork, leadership, working under pressure, and English language skill. This is the bonus that we get from the simulation game. Even students can practice their English language skills during the game, because the simulation all features are presented in English. If they don't understand, they will do Google search. This is very amazing experience for the students. But the limitation is it was conducted with a small number of participants, only 48 students, 24 control and 24 experiments. And this may have impacted the power of statistical analysis. And this simulation game used in the study of typically used for mid-level students with prior knowledge of topics in areas such as marketing and risk management. I really thank you for the universities because they select the participant who has already learned risk-taking management, marketing, and so on before entrepreneurship course. So prior knowledge about the course before entrepreneurship is very important in doing this experiment. Therefore, it is suggested that future research should be conducted with larger sample size and with participants who have completed relevant coursework. So there are some preconditions that should be notified by teacher who wants to do these experiments. Do not apply in the first semester of university. They need to join the marketing risk management because it will be valuable prior knowledge for the student when doing the simulation game. Well, thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this research will be a good, will be useful for you in a future research. So Pak Agus, thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation. I show you the quote of the day about the business simulation game. Thank you very much for your attention. This is the end of my presentation. I give back to the moderator, please. Good.
Yes, thank you, Ibu Lucia Mariani Sritonga, for the very interesting presentation. We know now that the use of digital game-based learning through business simulation games, or BSG, can improve student critical thinking, creative thinking, and also problem solving for their future career to be a successful entrepreneur. To Ibu Lucia Mariani, let's give our big hand. Now we will continue with the third presentation, which is the final one from this webinar. Allow me to read Bapak Gita Wiryawan CV before he gives the final presentation. Let me share the screen first. Bapak Gita Wiryawan is chairman of Ancora Group, an Indonesian business group with an interest in private equity investing, natural resources, real estate, sport, and music, which he founded in 2008. He served as a Minister of Trade and chairman of the Investment Coordinating Board, or BKPM, of the Indonesian government during the period 2009 to 2014. As an investment banker, he has held key senior appointments at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, playing leading roles in many mergers, corporate restructuring, corporate financing, and strategic sales involving leading companies in Southeast Asia. Bapak Gita is currently a member of International Advisory Board of the Chubb Group of Insurance Company and a member of the Advisory Board of Alpha JWC Ventures, a South Asian venture capital firm. In education, Bapak Gita sits as the Council of Global Advisory for Yale University School of Management and the Board of Government for Asia School of Business, or MIT. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our third speaker, Bapak Gita Wiryawan, MBA, to deliver his presentation. To Bapak Gita Wiryawan, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Pak Agus, for the kind introduction. I want to take this opportunity to thank IPWIJA University for inviting me at this international webinar event. I want to just basically provide a backdrop for what I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes. We have gone through a pretty tumultuous period in the last 18 to 19 months, where we have seen or witnessed quite a number of unprecedented phenomena, if not episodes. One of which is the fact that, we've seen more than 200 million people having been infected by the COVID-19 virus. And we've seen more than 4 million deaths around the world. And within the context of Southeast Asia or ASEAN, we've seen more than 6 million people having been infected by the virus, of which we've seen the number of deaths amounting to more than 119,000. And then peeling it a little bit deeper into Indonesia, unfortunately, Indonesia represents a pretty disproportionately large number in terms of the infections and also the deaths, where we have seen more than 3 million people in Indonesia that have been infected and more than 70,000 people that have died because of the COVID-19. So while we're witnessing this episode, which has been very unfortunate for everyone around the world, and particularly in Indonesia, we have basically made an observation of 3 types of shocks that we have gone through. The first kind of shock is basically the shock with respect to our day-to-day lifestyle, where we used to be able to physically move from one point to another. Even goods and services could quite easily move from one point to another. To a phase where we have quite significantly virtualized, if not digitized. Unfortunately, many of us have not been able to make the necessary virtual, if not digital adjustment to the point many of them, or many of us rather, have gone through some sort of a temporary impairment, if not permanent impairment. The second type of shock is really the shock with respect to how information is originated or is being disseminated. We have seen information being disseminated at or within our household, within our school, within our professional domain, and just a broader ecosystem that we've been living in. And at times, or more times than not, information has been more confusing and opposing with other pieces of information that would have come from different sources. This second type of shock, I think, has created a little more complication within our day-to-day life. The third type of shock is really the shock of policy making and policy implementation. Policies that would have been promulgated within our households, also within our schools, but also within, be it at the municipality level, at the regency level, or at the provincial level, at the national level, or even at the international level. Many of these are not necessarily aligned as a result of, the non-alignment or the misalignment of many of these policy postures. We have gone through, I think, a rather more complicated life in the last 18 or 19 months. So this is what I see as the new phase that we have to inevitably get used to so that, we can survive through the next 2 to 3 years at the very least before we reached, some sort of herd immunity. And this is on the basis that, we could only vaccinate about 300,000 to 500,000 people per day. On that basis, we could only vaccinate about 9 million people in a month or 100 million people in a year. In a context of a population of 280 million people, we're not going to be able to get any sort of herd immunity anytime soon, particularly this year. If we could maybe go to page 4, which is an illustration of some of the numbers that I've highlighted. This is in terms of the new reality that we are going through. Page 4, please.
Halaman 4, Pak. Kapil.
Yeah. This is basically a picture of what we have gone through, globally speaking, regionally speaking, and also locally speaking or domestically speaking. It's a pretty stark reality that's full of many complications, complexities, and difficulties. And on to the next page is an illustration of basically how quickly we have been testing ourselves. We're testing at a rate of around 8% within the country, and we're vaccinating at a rate of 15% within the country. Not a very high level or set of levels in terms of vaccination and testing as compared to some other countries, which I think have been more successful, if not much more successful in vaccinating and testing, inclusive of the United Arab Emirates, Israel, Singapore, the UK, and also the United States, where we are seeing some credible evidence of a trajectory towards some sort of herd immunity. This is, I think, an episode in our life which has and will likely affect how quickly and how much we're going to be able to grapple with technological innovations going forward. In the next slide, on page 6, is essentially an illustration of how I see the world going forward on a post-pandemic basis. The first one, I think we're clearly seeing a collapse, if not a decline, of aggregate demand that's happening within Indonesia, within the region, and also globally speaking. And this is not likely to recover anytime soon at the rate that activities are still physically limited. Quarantine requirements are still applicable in many countries, particularly ours. And also at the rate that many economies around the world do not have adequate amount of money supply. If we take a look at the money supply in Indonesia as a ratio to our GDP, it still stands at about 44% in terms of M2 or money supply vis-a-vis the GDP, which is a much lower percentage, that we're seeing in economies like Singapore, the United States, or even Japan and China, where the ratio of money supply or M2 to the GDP is hovering at much higher levels than 100%. The second is really the slowdown in terms of production and productivity, and this would have been attributable to disruptions in the supply chain, predominantly taking place in China. We have seen some degree of recovery in the supply chain capabilities in China, but I'm not of the view that it has recovered to the fullest extent. And I'm also of the view that many other countries around the world are not going to be able to serve as the factory of the world like China has been for the last 25 to 30 years. The third attribute that we're likely to see continuing on is basically the increasing levels of indebtedness at both, at the individual level, at the corporate level, and also at the state level, because of the need for money or the increasing need for money. We all have to borrow a little bit more in order to basically be able to survive in the next few years. The fourth, of course, most obviously, is the virtualization of our paradigm. How we have basically changed, if not shifted, from a physical world to a much more virtual world. And of course, at the expense of those that have not been able to make the necessary adjustment, as a result of which they have basically, become temporarily, if not permanently, paralyzed. The fifth is really what I see as an observation with respect to how money that's been printed in many developed economies has caused a bigger, if not wider, divergence between the capital markets index and also the real economy index. And this, I think, dovetails into the rise of Gini coefficient ratio at the rate that, only the elites, have bigger access to money as opposed to, those that are actually at the bottom of the pyramid. The sixth attribute is really what I call the super cycle of low inflation environment, if not deflation. And this is mainly driven by the role of technology, which has been able to collapse cost structures in many business models. And this is only likely to continue at the rate that, Moore's law is still going to be applicable to our day-to-day life, at least for the next 10 to 20 years. And also on the back of the fact that our demographics are getting older, savings will rise up while the number of asset classes will remain finite. So as a result of which the cost of money or the cost of capital will continue to decline. The next attribute is really a result of the divergence between the elites and the non-elites, the rich and the poor, which has unfortunately polarized conversations to a much larger extent, where we're seeing more and more protectionism, nationalistic fervor that has basically entailed the creation of two echo chambers, one on the far left and the other one being in the far right. And this, of course, has not helped in terms of how we all want to, continue multilateralizing in our economic framework. The last is really the decoupling between China and the US. This was precipitated in October 2015 when Donald Trump started using the China rhetoric to basically divide and conquer. And as for now, even during the Joe Biden administration, the tension between or amongst the Americans with respect to China has even intensified, not only in the context of trade, but also in the context of the greater geopolitical calculus. And this certainly has and will continue to have bearings on how Indonesia or Southeast Asia would have to take a view going forward. On the next page is an illustration of what I see as megatrends that are happening. The first megatrend is really the abundance of capital and energy. Energy being solar energy, which amounts to about 8,000 times the amount that we actually consume on a day-to-day basis. And I'm quite optimistic in the sense that, recent and future innovations within the solar space will continue to make things a lot more cheap, a lot more efficient, a lot more effective, not only in the context of absorbing energy from the sun, but also storing energy that's been absorbed. That will make it a lot more, I think, not only affordable, but reachable to and by people living in remote areas in places like Indonesia. On the back of this is really the capital abundance, which has been driven more by the demographics. Savings have gone up tremendously, but they're not being invested, as much as well as quickly as they should be. And also, the result of quantitative easing activities that have been undertaken by central banks in many developed economies, such as the Federal Reserve, the Bank of Japan, and the Bank of China, the Bank of the People of China, and also the central bank in the European Union, which has printed, trillions of dollars to the point. If we take a look at the M2, if not the money supply in these developed economies, it amounts to about $100 trillion, which is about 100 times the GDP of Indonesia. So that is a staggering amount that I think serves as what I consider as capital abundance. The second megatrend is really the digital demonetization or digital democratization, exemplified by what we're seeing in China in terms of how people pay for goods and services in a digital sense. The digital money or the digital payment transaction value last year in China was more than twice the amount of the GDP of China. So that amounts to about $26 trillion. But if we take a look at Indonesia, the digital payment value was less than $100 billion, which is only a tenth of the GDP of Indonesia. So this speaks for, I think, the kind of upside that we might be seeing in the next foreseeable future for Indonesia, and particularly techpreneurs in Indonesia and the region who want to basically take advantage of how much the delta is in the context of digital payment value. The third mega trend is anything, anytime, and anywhere. This was pioneered by Jeff Bezos through the Amazon digital platform in the early 90s, where he was able to, make people shift from a 4 to 5 paradigm or 4 to 5 click paradigm to a 1-click paradigm. By the click of a button, you're able to choose what goods and services you want. You're able to transact, and you're able to get the goods and services delivered to your home conveniently, as opposed to how the traditional thinking would have been previously, where you have to go through, a 1 click, a 2 click, a 3 click, a 4 click, or a 5 or 6 click type of scenario, which would have been a lot more inefficient. The next megatrend is really human longevity, and this has been propelled by scientific discoveries in both an artificial intelligence standpoint, but also a biological intelligence standpoint, where scientists are about to discover, how humanity can actually live until the age of 150 years old or even 200 years old by way of the augmentation of our biological science, but also artificial science. And this is only going to continue to intensify in the near foreseeable future, which will help human longevity. The last trend or mega trend is really singularity, which is really the intersection between artificial intelligence and biological intelligence. And this is, I think, a phenomenon that I think we all have to anticipate taking place in a near foreseeable future. And it will have tremendous repercussions, not only scientifically on us, but also economically, culturally, socially, politically, or even psychologically and geopolitically. It is a real thing that's happening in many developed economies, and it is an inevitability that stuff like this will basically trickle down to emerging economies like that of Indonesia. In the next page is an illustration of what I see as the 5 multi-trillion-dollar innovations that are likely to envelope our day-to-day life. The first one being blockchain. Blockchain is basically a technological innovation that allows for transactions to be decentralized, to be democratized, as a result of which you have real transparency in terms of whom you are transacting with and how much you're transacting with. But also it comes with attributes such as recourse, i.e. accountability in terms of how the transaction would have taken place. The second disruptive innovation is really with regards to the genome sequencing. The genome is essentially an encyclopedia of your genetic code, and your gene is consisting of about 21 to 24,000 genes, each of which is codified with only 4 letters, i.e. C, A, G, T, each one of which, or a combination of all or some, could actually be altered as if it is a word processing type of capability, to the point you can actually augment or alter the way you think, the way you look, and in terms of the production of your hemoglobin, so that the supply of oxygen through your bloodstreams onto your oxygen can be more than ever or more than before. This is something that's scientifically not only being pioneered, but already happening in a big way. One example of the applications of genome sequencing is really CRISPR, which is clustered regularly interspaced palindromic repeats, which would basically allow for a certain virus to be injected into a particular bacteria, so you can actually remedy chronic diseases such as pediatric blindness or sickle cell disease, which is really a medical and scientific breakthrough that's only about to basically be felt by humanities across the globe. It does pose certain questions as they relate to our moral boundary, as they relate to our ethical boundary, a religious boundary, and even, I think, to some extent, cultural and social boundaries. It does require a discourse amongst us, but it is something that I think we need to be anticipating, coming to us in a near foreseeable future. The third is really artificial intelligence in terms of how we could augment, our intellectual capacity. And one striking example of artificial intelligence is a company by the name of Neuralink, which basically would allow for a chip to be installed onto your skull so that you can actually do, all kinds of permutations and calculations, but it also would help in re-electrifying your neurons in your brain so that, the re-electrification of your neurons could help you heal from paralysis, from Alzheimer, from, dementia and other types of, chronic diseases that would have been affected adversely by the electrification of your neurons in your brain. The fourth is really robotics, which has been applicable within the manufacturing space, but it is likely to be much more applicable in the space of automotive, i.e. electric vehicles, the likes of Tesla, NIO, XPeng, which I think are showing, the very ability to combine the use of artificial intelligence and also robotics so that it does promote to a large degree autonomous driving without the requirement of a driver at all in the car. The last disruption is really what I alluded to earlier, i.e. the energy storage in the context of solar energy, in terms of how solar panels now are a lot cheaper, but they also come with a greater capacity to absorb energy, but also a greater capacity to basically store the energy that would have been absorbed from sun. And this, I think, will bode well for emerging countries like Indonesia that still, have its citizens living in remote areas without any access, if not very little access to energy. The next page is really a corroboration of how we have evolved in a big way. As you know, our planet Earth has been around for about 4.5 billion years. And we saw how simple life form took place, for a few billion years, ever since 3.8 billion years ago, until about 600 to 700 million years ago, when complex life form started taking place, when our reproductive capabilities changed from a clonal manner to a non-clonal manner about 600 to 700 million years ago. But we can see within the last millennium, we have seen a much faster, much higher acceleration in terms of how technological innovations have evolved, where in the 12th century, we saw the first formation of a foreign exchange contract. And then in the 15th century, we saw the first formation of a modern bank, which would allow people to do banking transactions. And in the 18th century, the clearinghouse, creation. And then they're on to the latter part of the 20th century, where in the early 90s, the one-click paradigm that was spearheaded by Jeff Bezos at Amazon, that basically propelled a much faster acceleration of technological innovations until it culminated in the basically realization of digital payment value in China amounting to more than twice the GDP of China. And this is, I think, just basically an indication of not only what we have seen in the context of acceleration of technological innovations in the last 20, 30 years, but it's an indication of what's to come in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of how staggering technological innovations will be, in front of our eyes in the near foreseeable future. The next page is an illustration of one of the 5 disruptions that I talked about earlier. And this is in the context of blockchain capability, where, the application of blockchain is in many, one of which is really in Bitcoin, which basically did a transaction of more than $1.3 trillion just a couple of years ago. Still well short of what the credit card transaction amounted to within the same period, but it's only a matter of time before blockchain capabilities or particularly Bitcoin transactions would actually overcome the transaction value being done by the traditional paradigm of credit cards. The next page is also an illustration of how the investing community is showing a lot more recognition, a lot more appreciation for technological innovations, particularly in the context of AI. Tesla, as a company, is valued in such a way that if you take a look at the value per share or the value of the company on a per car produced and sold basis, it sells at about $1.2 million on a per car basis. When you could actually buy a Tesla for between $60,000 to $80,000, unless you want to be buying the latest model of Model S plate, which sells for about $120,000. But all these retail prices are actually much lower than the price of the company on a per vehicle produced or sold basis, as compared to the Toyotas of the world, the Volkswagens of the world, the Fords of the world, that basically are valued at between $10,000 to $30,000 on a per vehicle made basis. This is, I think, a reflection of how companies like Tesla, NIO, and XPeng, have been able to amalgamate between or amongst AI, robotics, and autonomy, whereas the other traditional companies have not been able to advance the amalgamation of AI, robotics, and autonomy, as a result of which they're being punished in terms of their value proposition on a per car produced and sold basis. This is, I think, likely to continue on in terms of how innovative car companies are going to be valued going forward. But it's also indicative of the prospect of many of the traditional, conventional wisdom companies are likely to go bankrupt unless they revamp themselves as to become much more savvy with respect to the applications of AI, robotics, and autonomy. In the next page is really an illustration of what I think is a set of sectors in Indonesia that have not been disrupted. We have seen significant disruptions in the area of retail or marketplace with the likes of Bukalapak, Tokopedia, Lazada, and Shopee, and all the rest. We have seen disruptions in transportation with the likes of Grab and Gojek. We've seen disruptions in the context of healthcare with the presence of a Halodoc. But I'm of the view that the sectors that are displayed on this page are sectors that have not been disrupted in a meaningful manner, inclusive of one or two that actually have been disrupted, but not to a meaningful degree. The first one is really energy. It makes up about 5% of our GDP. That's about $60 billion worth of revenues per year. Most of that is still in fossil fuel, very little in terms of renewables, in terms of non-fossil energy usage. The second one is real estate. We have not seen disruptions in a meaningful manner at the rate that more than 17 million households do not have permanent homes for themselves. It is ripe for disruption in terms of connecting demand and supply, and also in terms of creating the necessary supply. The third is healthcare, which makes up about 5% of the GDP too. It's about $60 billion. We need to make sure that everybody, has access to healthcare, and everybody has affordable access to healthcare. We're not there yet, and I think the pandemic or the COVID-19 situation has punctuated the very need for better healthcare and more affordable healthcare going forward. The fourth is financial services. We've seen some P2P lending digital platforms that have been in place. But if we take a look at the total financial services industry, it only makes up about 40% of the GDP. It's still very low compared to where we're seeing it in more developed economies, where the ratio of financial services to the GDP is at least 100%. So the upside potential from 40% to 100% is still, around $600 to $700 billion worth of upside. I think it is still ripe for further disruption within the space. Education is another sector that very much has to be disrupted in a digital sense. And this is, I think, clearly evident in the way many of our friends, brothers and sisters in the villages and remote areas in Indonesia have not been able to have proper access to education by way of the limited connectivity or broadband availability in many of these remote areas. Agriculture makes up about 13 to 14% of our GDP. That's about $140 to $150 billion worth of top line or revenues. It has not been properly or adequately disrupted. We have seen some players playing in the space, but I think what we want to see going forward is really a higher degree of production and productivity at the upstream level so that we can be self-sufficient on just about every staple. The last one is really tourism, which, international tourism only makes up about 1 to 1.4% of the GDP. It's a starkly lower, percentage compared to what we're seeing in Thailand, where international tourism makes up about 16 to 20% of the GDP. This is, I think, an illustration of what's to come. And I do believe that, with the advent of, or with the recent announcements of Bukalapaks going public and the potential of GoTo's going public, and then the potential listing of Traveloka and Grab in the US, have and will continue to put Indonesia and ASEAN on a map or on the radar of many investing community members around the world who have greater access to money, if not liquidity. This will bode well, I think, for new aspiring, entrepreneurs in the tech space in Indonesia and the region to want to tinker with any, if not a combination of these sectors that are being displayed on this page. I'm of the view that I think the next 5 to 10 years will be regarded as the new super cycle in terms of the creation of new, not only wealth, but in terms of new entrepreneurs or techpreneurs that will be helpful in not only creating value for themselves, but hopefully being able to help redistribute welfare so that, we can bring down inequality, we can bring down, social injustice so that, Indonesia can stay on as a very robust nation. In the next page is a bit of an illustration of the application of artificial intelligence in education. We are seeing a number of applications in terms of mentoring activities in a virtual sense, but also a deeper application of AI in the context of how the quality of teaching can actually be augmented, if not enriched, but also the quality of learning. I think we have to work a lot more on the quality of teaching as opposed to the quality of learning. And I'm of the view that we need much better teachers in Indonesia if we want to be competitive with the Indias of the world, if not the Chinas of the world. On the last page is an illustration of some. Next page, please. On the last page is an illustration. Next page is an illustration of some companies that are, already quite widely and deeply utilizing artificial intelligence capability within the educational space. Third Space is one of the largest online platforms for mathematics in the US. Brainly is a Polish platform that basically provides a peer-to-peer learning experience. Carnegie Learning is another example of a platform that basically, utilizes artificial intelligence in a more customized manner in terms of tutoring students so that they can actually have a much more enriched type of user experience and thinking experience and learning experience. The last one is also another mathematical, artificial intelligence educational platform called Thinkster. It does make use of machine learning in a big way to help mathematical teachers track how their students are actually performing. So in essence, in summary, we are going through a very difficult time in terms of how the COVID-19 has affected and enveloped our day-to-day life, and how Indonesia has not been spared from and by COVID-19. But I think the positive consequence is that, we are being forced, and we're likely to continue being forced to virtualize and digitize, as to basically be more sensitive to a much wider array of technological innovations, which will only be more available for all of us to pick from, to learn from, while we are also sensitive to the fact that many of our friends, brothers and sisters have been adversely, if not negatively, affected by the COVID-19 because they have not been able to make this necessary digital or a virtual adjustment. But I'm of the view that the more quickly we can pick up on technological innovations, particularly artificial intelligence, I think there's a lot greater wisdom that can be reaped from it, so that we can be more helpful to those that have been negatively affected. Thank you. I think you're on mute, Pak Agus.
Agus masih di unmute, masih di mute.
Yeah. Thank you to Bapak Gita Wirjawan. It is indeed that the artificial intelligence is very important to know and apply to support if you want to be the successful entrepreneurs. And finally, please give our big applause to Bapak Gita Wirjawan for the interesting and inspiring presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all our speakers who have done their presentation. I'm now delighted to announce that we are going to begin our question and answer session to respond to all the questions and comments submitted during the presentation from Zoom and also from the YouTube. So let's start now. Let me show you the question first. The first question goes to Professor Ting Ting Wu. It is from Lenny Pramana. The question is, have you ever conducted research on how student attention level implemented in their life in society, and how's the result? Please, Professor Ting Ting Wu, your response.
Professor Ting Ting Wu still
yes.
mute. Yeah.
About these questions, actually, our EEG equipment has the limitation range of connection. So it's very hard to use in the life in society. So that's why we usually use this kind of tool in the fixed range, like in one class or in a computer classroom, because the one tablet or computer only can contact one person who used. So if we want to detect the accuracy signal, we must need a fixed range. So it is very hard to use in our social life. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ting Ting Wu. I hope that will answer a question from Ibu Leni Permana. The next question goes to Ibu Lucia Silitonga from Made Suantara, University of Mahasaraswati, Denpasar. She mentioned the pandemic COVID-19 had been a major impact on this increases on the number of unemployment, 9.77 million in Indonesia right now. My question is, as a student, what step can we do to help our country out of this dilemma? Please, Ibu Lucia Silitonga, to answer this question.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Agus. The question is also not easy to answer because unemployment is very complex. As the student, I think, this is my answer, it's not connected to my research on simulation game. I think as the students, they should be creative. Creativity is very important. And if, as the business student, they also learn about the entrepreneurship and business, I think they can be more creative by combine their activity in school and start their new business. Creativity is very important to start new business. I think everybody now face the same situation during pandemic. So I think that's my suggestion as teacher. And if students need to explore more, they can start a very small business from their own activity. Like I observe in Taiwan, students are very creative. They just do something, design something in their neighborhood, their environment of school. And they do business. Like here, culinary business is very, very popular during pandemic, especially the online business. I think students can start their online business from the very simple, practical, selling something. And the most popular business now is culinary, selling drinks, selling food, because people cannot go everywhere during pandemic, especially PPKM. People rely on the online business for ordering food and so on. Even my friend here, open PO online. I think to practice their entrepreneurial skill. That's Pak Agus. One thing that I can answer for these questions.
Thank you very much to Ibu Lucia for the answer. Let me continue with the question. Can you see the slide now? The next question, it goes to Bapak Gita Wiryawan.
Not yet. Slide.
Oh, not yet. Just, yes. Yeah, the next slide is for Pak Gita Wiryawan. Hi, Sir Gita. I am your student at postgraduate SGPP school. Yukul Pak, selamat. Arista SGPP batch 8. Yeah, to Pak Gita, how to stop ritual religions gathering that may cause the COVID positive increase? How hospital from the best way to tackle next wave? Thank you. To Pak Gita, please, your answer.
Well, I think first and foremost is to undertake a lot more testing as opposed to what we might be seeing, right? As I showed you earlier in the slides, our testing has only been on to about 8 to 9% of the population. Give and take a few points. The more we test our population, the more we know of where we might have been deficient, but also the kinds of steps that we need to be taking, not only from a healthcare standpoint, but also from a demographic and from a geographic standpoint. And I think this is made more complicated by the fact that, you know, we have limited abilities in vaccinating upon those that call it areas that would have been more affected, you know, by the COVID-19. So in terms of our need to socialize and educate the public so that they do not gather at public domains as many and as much and as frequently as they, you know, should or should not, it really has to be empirically corroborated by data. And this is where I think we all need to work a little bit harder in terms of gathering more empirical data. And once we have that empirical evidence, we can actually socialize the empirical evidence to the stakeholders, not just limited to those that are going to the places of worship, such as the mosque or the church or the temples and all that good stuff. But I do believe that, I think the people in Indonesia need to be provided with empirical evidence, need to be socialized in an acceptable manner by the leaders of the villages, the leaders of the kabupaten, the leaders of the provinces, the leaders of the nation, in a much more coordinated manner, so that everybody is aware of what deficiencies we're all exposed to and what steps that we need to be taken, I'm of the view that we're not there yet, and I agree with the questioner, but I'm also of the view that if we undertake a much greater degree of testing, and we actually are quite transparent about it, as much as the knee-jerk reaction or the intuition of people would be that it would cause panic, but I do believe that in the midterm and long term, it would cause a much greater wisdom in terms of looking at this more from a health care or health standpoint as opposed to an economic standpoint. So the next part is, how do we tackle the subsequent waves? Again, the more quickly we can undertake the vaccination program, I think the better we're going to be positioned. And as I said earlier, realistically speaking, I'm not of the view that we're going to be able to reach or attain herd immunity until sometime in 2023. So until then, I think we've got to be very, very careful, and we've got to show open-mindedness. And this goes back to the earlier question in terms of what it takes to actually succeed. What I have found, people at the position of leadership, be it in social enterprise, private enterprise, or even public enterprise, at the lowest, if not the highest level, the more they can actually show open-mindedness, the more they can actually make adjustments. And what I've found as a common denominator amongst those that have not been able to make adjustments, in order to better digitize or virtualize in the last 18 to 19 months, these were the ones that actually were not open-minded, be it the small, micro, medium entrepreneur, or even the large one, or even people in a position of leadership within the public enterprise that didn't want to show the necessary, kind of open-mindedness. And that has actually made it more difficult for each one of them to make the necessary adjustment. And this, I think, is an area where we could do better, i.e. showing more open-mindedness in order for us to be able to survive the next wave or the next few waves.
Thank you, Pak Gita Wiryawan, for your answer. Let's move to the next question from our audience here, from our participant. The next question is from Ibu Nanda to Professor Ting Ting Wu. What is the key indicator of performance to accelerate entrepreneurship, talent, and skill? What I mean, I think this one is the key indicator during your experiment, Professor Ting Ting Wu. What is your response to this? You are still mute, Professor Ting Ting Wu.
Yes. About the performance of excellent entrepreneurship, talent, and skill. Actually, in our research, our rubric is about creativity, decision-making, and risk-taking. And you can see risk-taking have a correlation with the creativity and problem-solving. So you can see if this student have more creativity, it means he more dare to try to have a risking on their project. And so they need to have a lot of decision-making need to met. So I think about ownership, skills, I think the creativity is the most important one for the students, especially in the entrepreneurship skills. Thank you.
Thank you to Professor Ting Wu for your answer. Now, let's move again to other question from our participant. From Ibu Eka, Jakarta, to Ibu Lucia. What is the impact of digital game-based learning for the creation of the entrepreneurship habitual action? Please, Ibu Lucia, for your answer.
Thank you very much, Pak Agus. What is the impact of digital game-based learning
for the creation of the entrepreneurship habitual action?
Might be the question is about entrepreneurial skill. So as I mentioned in our research, game-based learning, in this case simulation game, is not directly influence the entrepreneurial skill. But from the experiments, game-based learning influence or has impact to the high order thinking skill. The high order thinking skill is talking about problem solving skill, critical thinking, or creativity. Or in taxonomy Bloom, we use analyze, evaluate, and create. When students can improve their creativity skill, critical thinking skill, problem solving skills, that's the basic, or creativity is the basic of entrepreneurial skill. So game-based learning or simulation game is only a tool, not to measure the entrepreneurial skill, but help the students give the strong creativity by doing the activity in the simulation game. And the creativity, critical thinking, problem solving has strongly relation to entrepreneurial skill. The entrepreneurial skills that we discuss here is the creativity, risk-taking, and decision-making. I think that's my answer, Pak Agus. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Lucia, for your answer. It's very clear, I think. Let's move to the next question. The next question will go to Pak Gita Wiryawan. This is from link YouTube, from Derio TV. Sorry, this one is the Indonesian ya, but sejauh mana peran perguruan tinggi dalam problem solving teknologi di wilayah pedalaman terkait proses pembelajaran dan transfer pengetahuan? Well, this is something to do the problem solving, and I think the role of the university in the area where like in Papua or in where the numbers of university is not so many like in Jakarta or in Java, yeah, and also something to do with the education and also the transfer of the knowledge. What do you think, Pak Gita?
I think there's essentially two structural issues. The first one is with regards to the lack of connectivity. In many remote areas, villages in Indonesia, and other similar emerging economies or countries, the access to 4G capabilities very much lacking. We even have villages in Indonesia that only have access to 2G, and best 3G capability. And we all know, particularly at a time when COVID-19 has affected our physical mobility, the more important it is to disseminate information in a digital manner. And with the lack of 4G capability, much less 5G capability, it makes it even much more difficult, if not impossible, to disseminate contents that are either voluminous and or sophisticated. So that, I think, is the first structural impediment. The second impediment is what I have been basically making a point of as of late, Indonesia, unfortunately or fortunately, needs better quality teachers. And if you go to places like Taiwan, South Korea, and Singapore, or even China, the people that are actually teaching at the lowest all the way to the highest levels of education are ones that have actually graduated from the top 5, 10, or 15%. And, this is something that has been in existence for a long time in those countries where, number one, when they get out with, high rankings, they will get paid well as a teacher, as much as they would have been given choices to work for like Google, Amazon, or Morgan Stanley, or what have you. Many that have graduated top of the class actually choose to be a teacher because they get paid well. Number two, the social status within each one of these countries is high. You are highly respected if you tell people that you're a teacher. I'm not so sure if that is the case in Indonesia. And I think it is upon us, the onus is upon us to make sure that going forward, we actually, get better quality teachers, number one. And number two, those good quality teachers actually, would like and want to teach at the remote areas. I mean, if you can get the best graduate out of the top university in Indonesia, more than likely he or she would only want to teach in Jakarta, because that's probably where he or she's going to get the highest income, and the likelihood of he or she meeting up with a potential life mate or being closer to the family is much higher. So I think these are the two structural impediments that we have to overcome over time. And I'm optimistic in that if the view taking at the regional government level and at the national government level is in such a way that we address the connectivity impediment so that there is 4G, if not 5G, access capabilities, and we get the top graduates from universities from around the world to want to teach at the remote areas in Indonesia, be it Sulawesi, Flores, Papua, Aceh. I think we're going to have a fantastic, future for Indonesia, where not only are we getting more and more richly educated, but it is a lot more fairly distributed in terms of the intellectual capacity.
Thank you very much for your answer, Pak Gita Wiryawan. Let's continue with the next question. Let me just share another question. Let me ask first, Pak Professor Eko, are you still there here? Because there's a question for you, Pak. Okay, I think Pak.
Not yet.
Professor Eko is already left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I will continue with another question. I think this one also to Pak Gita. From all of your attribute and mega trend, how and what Indonesia do to catch up our lag behind in order to take our sustainability competitive advance? This is from Pak Hartanto from our Zoom. Pak Gita, I'm sorry, you are still mute.
Yeah, sorry. I think there's a few things that Indonesia needs to do, or we all have to do in Indonesia, to improve our standing or improve our situation with regards to where we are in artificial intelligence, genomics, robotics, and blockchain and energy storage. But unfortunately or fortunately, all this requires money, right? And I go back to what I alluded to earlier, in that our money supply with respect to the GDP is so low still at 44% that we need to get more money supply so that, we can have our people at least, being able to go to Indomart, Alfamart to buy their Indomies or basic staples so that they could survive during this pandemic. But beyond that, the money supply will be instrumental in making sure that we adopt the latest of technological innovations. If we have to buy them, we have to buy them, then we buy them. And we also will be in a position to basically adopt and get the best of teachers from around the world to come and teach here in Indonesia. And this is, I think, an area where we need to show a lot more open-mindedness. Until today, it's still very hard for anybody that's a good teacher in Taiwan, a good teacher in the UK, a good teacher in Japan, China, and Singapore, and the United States to want to come here because, number one, from a regulatory standpoint, they're still forbidden. Number two, there's still not a whole lot of incentives that are being offered for people that perhaps would have collected 500 to 1,000 patents to want to come here and teach. I would actually be as bold as to go to the extent of, even providing tax incentives if we want to make sure that we usher the future generation of Indonesians in such a way that they understand genomics, energy storage, artificial intelligence, robotics in a much more accelerated manner. I would invite the best of the best to come here and make them not pay taxes for 5 to 10 years, as long as I know that they're actually going to be of value to the people of Indonesia. Unfortunately, this hits a brick wall, which is called nationalism. And sometimes nationalism gets played out, on the back of, I think, vested political interest, which really do not translate into value creation for the greater goods of Indonesia. So, number one, money. Number two, open-mindedness at the national level so that we can actually catch up. Because without these two, very basic ingredients, I'm not of the view that Indonesia is going to be able to catch up with the Chinas of the world, the Indias of the world anytime soon. I'm not saying we're not going to be able to catch up, but I think it'll take a long time until and unless those two variables are taken a view of.
Thank you very much to your answer, Pak Gita Wiryawan. We still have another 2 questions here. The next question goes to Ibu Lucia. How can the simulation game or digital game-based learning improve student entrepreneurial and their engagement in the classroom? To Ibu Lucia, please, your answer.
Okay, thank you, Pak Agus, and thank you for the questions. The first question is similar to the former questions. How can simulation game or digital game-based learning improve student entrepreneurial skill, I think? I have mentioned before, the simulation game gives a lot of practice to students to improve their creativity, problem-solving skill, and critical thinking skill. From the simulation, the EI team of the simulation let the student run their business, their activity of design product, marketing, and then also the financial activity, the accounting activity. Student has opportunity to improve their creativity, critical thinking skill, problem solving skill. We call it high order thinking skill. And this high order thinking skill influence their entrepreneurial skill. The most skill that is very important in entrepreneurship is like creativity, risk taking, and decision making. That's dominate the skill. So in this rationale, we can see that simulation game or digital game-based learning play important role. And about engagement. Engagement is defined as the extent of students contribute to the activities through active learning, involvement in enrichment, and seeking guide, staff, and collaboration with others. And engagement is key element of learning activity. So Engagement is explicitly associated with achievement and predictor of learning. Test score, grades, and retention and graduations. So when the student play the games, they become engaged. Engaged means masuk, blended. So they are motivated to do activity in the simulation game. So they strongly related to improve their creativity, their satisfaction, motivation to engage in the classroom. I think that's how simulation game improve the student entrepreneurial skills. Remember, game-based is only a tool, not to measure, but help the students to improve the skill. I think that's my answer, Agus. I hope help the person who asked questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much to Ibu Lucia Silitonga. I think now I have the last question. This last question goes to Bapak Gita. The question is, artificial intelligence is routine work, but on the other hand, makes people lazy and less innovative. How do you think and how to respond to this? This is from Pak Anwar from the Zoom.
I hold a different view. Typically, those that hold the view that artificial intelligence is going to make people lazy, these are actually the lazy people who think like this, right? I'm of the view that artificial intelligence has proven to be, an augmentation to pre-existing productivity, pre-existing production capabilities. In order for the pre-existing users of the pre-existing or previous technology, in order for them to be able to better allocate resources so that they could do other things, right? And we can see it economically speaking. 20 to 30 years ago, let's go back to 2001. From 2001, when China entered the WTO as to allow itself to trade in a liberal manner with the rest of the world, until last year, the GDP of China has gone up in PPP on a purchasing power parity basis, has gone up by 7 times. In renminbi terms by 9 times, in dollar terms by 11 times. It only means that there's greater production and greater productivity, right? If the argument is that people would become lazier on the back of the use of artificial intelligence, then we would be seeing a decline or a diminution of economic activities, right? It only means that, by way of utilizing artificial intelligence, you can actually allocate your pre-existing resources for other purposes, which are also useful in creating, incremental economic activities and sums. So I think the danger or the concern with respect to the use of artificial intelligence is more political and social rather than economic. There is a risk that at such time when autonomous Tesla cars arrive in Indonesia to the point where the need for drivers will be completely dispelled, what are we going to do with the 1 million drivers that are in Indonesia, right? Well, then you start wondering as to whether or not they could become coding specialists. But it is quite likely that they're not going to be able to repurpose themselves as to become coding specialists because they've been driving cars for the last 30, 40, even 50 years, right? So it's very difficult for them to get repurposed. So I think it's upon us to make sure that perhaps they repurpose by doing things that are still at the low echelon of the value chain, which could include stuff like welding or hairstyling or lawn mowing or gardening or landscaping, stuff like that, but with a view that we can actually upskill them over time. I think we have ample time to start reskilling and upskilling some, if not many. I think many would be an overstatement, but some, I think, would be a realistic, estimation in terms of how many we can actually start repurposing and up-purposing. But the long or mid game would be that the government and all its stakeholders at the national and at the regional levels would have to collaborate. At such time when artificial intelligence is applied in a way that it would actually dislocate pre-existing paradigms, not disrupt, but dislocate. Dislocation is basically a series of disruptions that make life a lot more stressful, a lot more anxious, a lot more unbearable. This is, I think, what we have to prepare for so that they do not become useless. They have to continue to be engaged and empowered in such a way that there is political stability, there is psychological stability, there is cultural stability. But I'm not of the view that artificial intelligence will actually make humanity lazier. If any, I think it's going to allow for humanity to explore new areas where they can still attain as much, if not higher, productivity.
Thank you very much to your answer, Pak Gita Wiryawan. Since the time is limited and it's already up, I would like to close this section. To all participants, thank you very much for your participation and your question. And to the honorable speaker, Bapak Gita Wiryawan, Ibu Lucia Silitonga, and Professor Ting Yu, thank you very much once again for answering the question, sharing idea and information. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the webinar. Our deepest gratitude goes to all the presenters and to you all the participants of this webinar. I would like to express special thanks to all the committee members that make this webinar possible and go smoothly. Special mention to Bapak Fajar Darmanto, Bapak Rasipan, Bapak Meda, Bapak Idam, LP2M team, and those involved in this event. Finally, on behalf of STIE IPWIJA, thank you very much for joining us today and have a great time. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Yeah, we still have other agendas, Pak.
Yeah, I will now return the stage to our MC, Bapak Taufik, for further program. To Bapak Taufik, the time is yours.
Hello, Mr. Taufik.
Pak Taufik.
Hello.
Oh yeah, okay, Pak Taufik. Please move to next agenda, please. Pak Taufik.
I think he's on mute.
Mas, still mute, Pak. Still mute.
Taufik still mute, maybe. Halo Pak Taufik.
Trouble, sir. Mohon ditunggu sebentar.
Trouble.
Yes. Halo, Mr. Taufik. Mungkin dilepas dulu.
Ya, without and free, Pak Taufik.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for our moderator, keynote speaker, and all speaker for the spectacular explanation in this international webinar today. Excellence, ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is symbolic giving of the International Webinar of Appreciation Certificate by the chairman of School of Economic and Business IPWIJA Jakarta, Dr. Besar Agung Martono.
Yeah, here I'm here.
For all of our speakers.
Yeah.
The first moment for keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Ricardus Eko Indrajit.
Yeah, to Professor Eko Indrajit, I would like to give the appreciation of certificate as keynote speaker. But unfortunately, Prof. Eko Indrajit already left room. So I will give the certificate in other occasion.
Thank you, sir. The second moment for Professor Ting Ting Wu. We invite Professor Ting Ting Wu.
Yeah, dear Professor Ting Ting Wu, yeah, I would like to present my appreciations to you as a certificate that, because this is virtual, I cannot give you physically. Yeah? So I thank you very much for your presentation in the seminar, and we hope that we can cooperate further in the near future. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. The third moment for Mr. Gita Wiryawan, MBA, MPA. We invite Mr. Gita Wiryawan.
Yeah, Pak Gita Wiryawan, I would like to thank you. Yeah, for I give you appreciation as a certificate virtually, but I will give you in PDF format. Once again, thank you very much for your presentation. Very good, and open our minds for our conditions and our hopes for future education especially in entrepreneurship. Yeah, once again, thank you very much, Pak Gita Wiryawan. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. The fourth moment for Dr. Randa Lucia Mariani Silitonga, MPD, PhD candidate. We invite Dr. Randa Lucia Mariani.
Okay. To Lucia Mariani Silitonga, I would like to thank you very much, and I will give you appreciation certificate for having this wonderful opportunity for this seminar. I hope we can participate again. You will participate in our programs because you are our best friends, our long friends since I was a child. Yeah, thank you once again to Mary Silitonga, to Lucia Mariani Silitonga.
Thank you, Agung. Success always for your institution.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Masih kalau sponsor juga enggak?
Okay, next agenda.
Thank you very much for Dr. Besar Agung Martono. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, attention please for all of the participants. Speaker presentation material can be downloaded on Thursday, July 22nd, 2021 at 1 p.m. E-Certificate can be downloaded on Tuesday, July 27, 2021 at 4 p.m. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is photo.
Taking pictures.
Photo session, I think. Photo session.
Photo session.
Photo session. After photo session, closing remark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we start photo session, please, all of the participants, ladies and gentlemen, to open the camera.
Open the camera.
The photo session will be guided by the host, Mr. Idam.
Okay, thank you very much,
Mr. Edem, Mr. Edem,
Taufik.
could you help me to take the photo, all of the participants, the speaker? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Taufik. This 10 slides. Yeah.
10 slide.
Yes. Please open cam to all participants. Thank you so much. Slide 1. Smile, please.
Smile.
Nice smile. Okay, thank you. And this slide 1.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, slide 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. 1, 2.
Hello,
and 3.
Pak Taufik.
Yeah. Okay, next slide.
Okay. Set. Next slide. Many slide. Okay. Next slide. Slide 3. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Okay, next slide.
Next slide. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Slide 4. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Next slide. Slide 5.
Slide 5.
Okay. Oh, this close camera. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slide 5. Okay. Okay. Slide. Next slide. Okay. Okay. Well done, Mr. Taufik. Well done, Pak Agung. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
all participants.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Mr. Edem.
Once
Thank you
again,
very much.
I would like to thank you for the co-host.
Itu nggak jadi.
Co-host.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Itu ada tulisannya.
The honorable ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is closing remark from Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the IPWIJA Foundation, of Mr. Heri Miarsono PhD. Please, time is yours.
Pak Sony. Nah, udah habis Pak Sony ini berarti.
Yep.
Ini stop dulu, Pak Sony dulu.
Pak Sony.
Halo, Pak Sony.
Assalamualaikum, Pak Sony.
Ya, Pak Sony. Ya, closing remark, Pak Sony.
Once again, excuse me, the honorable ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is closing remark from Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the IPWIJA Foundation, Mr. Heri Miarsono PhD. Please, time is yours. We invite Mr. Heri Miarsono PhD.
Hello, Pak Hari.
I think Pak Heri Miarsono is not yet. Okay. Yeah. Anyway,
leave from this room.
Yeah, we thank you once again to National Yunlin Science and Technology University Taiwan, SGPP School of Government and Public Policy Jakarta, De Hasan University Bengkulu, Indraprasta PGRI University, Bayangkara Jakarta Raya University, STIH Caritas West Papua, STIH Mah Esa Manokwari, STIH PGRI Sukabumi, Amikom University Yogyakarta, Mahasaraswati University Bali, and sponsor of this seminar, Bank BGP. Once again, thank you very much, and see you again in the next opportunity. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Tadi udah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, Mr. Taufik.
Yes.
The last agenda is closing.
Yeah. Information of download certificate, Mr. Taufik.
We have informed.
Yeah.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, I do apologize for my mistakes in presenting this event. To close our international webinar today, let's recite Hamdallah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Praise be to Allah Almighty, Lord of the universe.
Halo, Pak Sony.
Udah just closing ya.
Any others agenda? Excuse me.
No. Sudah closing. Ya.
Close saja Pak Taufik, lanjut Pak Taufik.
Ya, close saja deh. Ya. Okay, thank you very much everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind intention and participation. See you at the next seminar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya.
Terima kasih Pak Suyanto.
Oke, thank you Bu Dekan.
Terima kasih Bu Mary ya.
Ya, siap. Salam sehat semuanya. Izin live.
Oke, thank you Bu Dekan.
Terima kasih Bapak Ibu dosen dari Ubara Jaya yang masih stay.